Oh, can you
All
hear me?
right, hold on one second. I'm gonna swap my audio. I can hear you guys on my phone. Go ahead and talk a little bit. I want to make sure that this worked.
Unique New York. Unique
Yeah.
New York.
There we go. We got you. We got you.
Right
I had to
on.
stop. I had audio, and I wasn't gonna be able to hear what you were saying if I did that. So I'll
Yeah,
shut
you
that.
definitely want to hear this one. What's your name, Dale?
Dill Bop.
Dale Bob. Right on, Dale Bob.
I'm
My name is
doing good.
Michael Godek. I am a born American raised in Mexico. And all my life growing up in Mexico, it's a wild story for me, because it's a culture shock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a lot of problems. Like I was a very problematic child because coming from the States, and I went in and live in a really rural place of Mexico, the state of Guerrero.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty tough, man. And I end up getting into a lot of fights. I was fighting like all the town, I guess, like teachers and shit. So I started to go into like um, just how do you call it, like heavy stuff, right? I remember I started to become like a punk.
Okay.
Like I was like hanging out with the craziest people. We were kind of like anarchists, anti-religious, because the town, it was very religious, like conservative.
Okay.
So you go through like a lot of abuse. So we were kind of like mad, I guess, right?
Yep.
So we started, like, I was a musician, right? So I played the guitar for a band, and I was doing tattoos, and we just had this scene. We In that time, like, you gotta understand, like, tattoos were like really bad shit, man.
Oh
And
yeah.
and and we were like working with just very low life of the town, like transvestites and criminals, and there was a lot of um, can I say substance, right? like
Sure.
like I mean, yeah, substance around, and so I started to abuse, right, like
Mm-hmm.
this situation. And so I was doing a lot of like just things we will find at the pharmacy, and stuff that was really bad. And
Yep.
one day this guy came out of nowhere, and he was like, "Hey man, I know a way we can get high without having to pay." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "We got to go to this town and meet with my cousin, and we are just gonna like go pick mushrooms." And I
Really.
was like, and yeah, and what's that about? Like, we're gonna like eat some freaking plants and what?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"No, man, you don't understand, man. Like, this thing is crazy." So I took his word for it, right? I didn't expect much out of it. I was like, I cannot believe that you can just get free shit. Like, that's not possible in this world. So
Infamous.
yeah, you gotta understand my mindset too, because at that time I was reading a lot of like existentialist philosophers. Like, I was really deep into like Schopenhauer or Nietzsche, and this type of philosophy is like very materialistic. It's very here in the now. So I was very trapped in the concept of matter. Of like just my body, like I am just like a random mutation, and nothing really matters much because you just have like this moment, and you might as well live it and die as soon as possible because suffering is done or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
very 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 extreme.
Yep.
And in my mindset, things like UFOs or angels or like any of that sort of thing, to me, it was just like stupid fantasy of people that they were
Sure.
dumb
Yep.
because they didn't read the books I read or some shit like that. It was, now looking it back, it was ridiculous. But I was like that. I was a kid and I was mad, and I was going crazy. So by the time we do this experience, like, we go into the woods and we start like picking up these things, and I'm just like, dude, and how much should I eat? Like, because he only gave me one instruction. He said, like, don't eat anything the day before. So I was hungry as fuck. And
Oh yeah.
I remember we just like went at it. So I lost count, man. I was just like munching,
Yep.
and my friends as well. So what happened next was like pretty insane because we were sitting in a dry river. Like, it used to be like a little creek, and
Okay.
and there was no water, but we were like sitting on the creek, and so we were like deep into kind of a wooden area. Like, I couldn't see the sky. It was just a lot of like plants around, and I was sitting in a big ass rock, and they were like under there. And I remember I started like just feeling strange. Like I felt suddenly very calm, like I've never felt before. And then
Mm-hmm.
then I started like hearing these noises, like far away. It started like some thunder, and I remember thinking that it was strange because it was a very blue day. It was like beautiful sun, and I was like, "What are these thunder sounds like? Like, is it gonna rain? It doesn't look like it can." And
Yeah.
then I noticed like another type of sound that it was coming closer. It's hard to like explain, but imagine kind of like a waterly sound. And this
Okay.
thing, it was just like kind of going over the trees where I was like sitting, and it will go and it will cross, like make this weird sci-fi sound, like a like very strange movement. But it was
Uh-huh.
kind of like something was up there, right? So I started noticing this, and then a noise caught my attention, and something moved in the plants around me. Like the only thing I
Whoa.
can describe it, imagine that you had like one of those like Jurassic Park velociraptors. You know how they move through the
Don't
jungle.
go into the
Like,
tall grass.
yeah, something like it was in the plants, but I could not follow. But it didn't move. It moved like an animal, so it kind of freaked me out. I was like, "Holy shit! What was that?" I saw it move it twice, and then it kind of stands still. And I try to look through the plants to see if I could see anything, and then I start seeing like thousands of eyes, like
Oh,
thousands of them, right? So I really started to like. I closed my eyes, and then I thought, okay, now this must be working because that was super freaking weird, and
yeah.
everything is getting weirder. That it started to like worry me, right? So I took a breath and I was like, no, man, it's just hallucination. Like calm down. And then I hear my friend that he steps up and he starts screaming at the plants and he's like, show
Oh, so
yourself.
I'm in your
And I'm
same.
like, yeah, I'm like, dude, is somebody out there, right? And he's like, yeah, he's like out there. And I'm like, holy shit. So like
Whoa.
now it's real. Like this is not just me, right?
This
So
is
my
not a
friend,
good time for a trip, bro.
was that?
I said this would not be a good time for the trip. Like,
No, well, it's a great time. The thing is that I don't know if it was the quantity that we use
yeah.
that really broke some shit of reality because my friend starts freaking out and the guy that was kind of like the one that brought us, he's like, you know what, guys, I'm not feeling it. Let's get out of here. Let's go to the clearing. And
Yeah.
and and everybody agreed. It's just like, yeah, like something really freaked us out of there. So we go down in into the path and we get to the clear area where we can see the sky. And one note right there is that like there was another group of like explorers, like this group of Boy Scouts, kind of like Mexican Boy Scouts. So
Mhm.
they are coming up, and we're gonna cross them, and then we go through them, but they don't say anything. You gotta notice that it's like very strange in Mexico. We are very polite, so they will acknowledge you and be like a good afternoon or something, and
Sure.
they just did not see us. And they were like, because they were talking like very friendly, like they were joking between, like, you know how a person will like kind of break character when there's some stranger there because they,
Sure.
they they don't talk. But I was like, I'm seeing through the glass, like I could see their thing that we were invisible, so it felt very weird. And when we got to the clearing, and my friend looks back at me and he's like, they didn't even see us, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know what the fuck was that. But we just like saw it, and dude, it gets so insane because we sit in the grass, and my friend, he's like start talking. He's like, oh yeah, the other day I came here with Rodrigo and we were like in that other mountain over there. And he starts pointing out the mountain, and suddenly he goes silent and he's just like, what in the fuck is that? And everybody looks up to the sky, and and there's this thing, right? Is basic. It was basically first like a black hole in the sky. It was just like a black hole. So I'm looking at this hole and I'm thinking like, well, this is not a plane. This is not a chopper. So I'm discarding all the things, right? Like this is not a balloon. What is this thing? Like, and then what it was weird is that this thing starts like move, like it was moving slowly in the exact trajectory of the sun. So we're looking at against the sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as it makes this like eclipse effect, I could clearly feel that like all reality changed. Like it was feeling like I was a bug, like inside a glass or something, because the sound kind of died off. Like the birds, you could not hear them anymore. Like time space stop. Like I remember that I was falling on my ass. I was literally falling behind, thinking like, how these guys are making this. Like who's how, but my friend at the same time, I remember he was screaming, his cousin or my homie, he was like screaming, nothing moves. But when he was saying that phrase, it was kind of like slow. I could hear him like in slow motion saying nothing moves. And,
Wow.
and, and yeah, it was like very crazy moment, but it could have been just like 1 second, but it just felt like waterly effect. Like, I don't know, like it was clearly that we were, when I look at back, it was kind of like a sort of abduction, right? It was just like if that thing was touching us or something.
Mm-hmm.
And when this thing gets out of line of the sun, it kind of every all the time comes back. So I can feel the gravity. I can feel this other dimension. And my friend just gets up and he runs. He's like, "Fuck this!" And he just like takes off. But he's the guy that has the keys of the car. So
Of
everybody's just like,
course.
well, follow him because wherever he goes, we need him, right? So we just like to take off through the whole thing. And I remember we just like went down the path and got to the car, right? And everybody's just like riled up and everybody's kind of like talking about their own thing. It was a very weird moment. So I just managed to get myself in the back seat and I look in the window, like on my right side, and this thing had come back. And it was like, not only that, it was like right above us. Like I could clearly see now what it was. So now it was like on the other side, like now it was like the sun, it was hit. So this thing, try to imagine if you can put this in your mind, but it was basically like a sphere. Like it had this element of a sphere, but at the same time was a cube. And it was doing the both motions at the same time. It was kind of like moving, like shape shifting. And,
Whoa, dude.
and, and it will go from two colors. One side, it looked kind of like metallic blue, and the other was kind of like metallic red. And it would make this constant movement. And that was the fucking sound that I was hearing. It was kind of like this,
Oh,
and,
that is
and
that is so weird that you say
it
all
is,
of that stuff because there's so many
dude,
connections right
it,
there.
it's because it is real. This actually happened. I'm not inventing this thing. When
No,
when 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 I was there in that car and when I saw this thing, I scream at them. I'm like, this thing is back. Like this thing is coming for us, or like I don't know what it wants, but this thing is on top of us, locos. So this guy just like takes off with the car. He's like, let's move to the town. Like let's go find people or something. Like I guess that was our thought about it. So we
yeah.
leave and we get to town and it happens something similar of the Boy Scouts because we hit a actual police checkpoint. So they're checking for someone. This doesn't happen often in those times, but they were going card after card, like they were asking for like IDs. You could see that they were like pulling out the IDs. So something had happened and they were looking for someone. So when we see this, everybody starts freaking out. It's like,
Yeah.
hide everything, hide everything. So I remember that my homie was like pulling off the klaxon side so we could like stash everything in the klaxon, and everybody just like act normal, and we were just like waiting for the cop to like check our shit, and he passes us like nothing, like we don't even exist. He goes to the next car. So we just look at each other like, dude, we don't exist. We just don't exist. What is going on?
Wow.
And we hit town and we went to like the house of this dude because he lived in a place where you could see all the valley. So we were looking for the thing, and it just like I've never saw it again, right? And after that, we kind of just like chilled in his place and kind of like took a nap. And when I woke up, it was like a weird dream, right? And
How
this
was this thing that you stated? Like the sphere object, could you say it size wise?
Yeah, if you know what is like a Volkswagen Beetle car,
Bro. Oh yeah. Okay.
yeah, that would be his size. Like it was something around that size. And I did like what happened to me is kind of like that experience broke, like it changed me completely who I was. Like it broke my personality, it broke my everything because everything that I read up to that point, it
Mm-hmm.
didn't this didn't fit. This was like the anomaly. And I was like, dude, there's things out there that we just do not fucking understand.
Yeah.
And and
No.
and 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 the first thing that I thought to do was like investigate if there was any um, um, somebody that had written this, or like there was a connection between the intake of the fungi
Yeah.
and the experience of seeing the UFO phenomena.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you're familiar with this guy, but this guy came out in the search engine in the library called Terence McKenna. And and Terence McKenna has a whole book about him and his brother going down to the jungle of Brazil, and he has the same experience using like fungi. So
Really?
to me, it was just like putting one and one together in that sense of like, well, there's some. He theorizes, for example, he has this quote where he says like, fungi are the telescope to see these things.
Hmm.
So it's actually like a tool, like a technology. He will see it that way. And it's because like, you know what, after all this experience, I will say to you that it didn't feel to me like it was a ship. Like that thing didn't feel like a built thing and that somebody was riding it or someone was inside. It felt to me that it was a whole being, like it was a creature that could actually shapeshift in whatever form it wanted to. And it felt it was like interacting with us in the sense of like it was conscious that we could fucking see it. and
Yeah.
and and in my investigations of the local place, I was asked because what is crazy enough in the town, in that town specifically in Mexico, is kind of like the Roswell of Mexico. Like a lot of people go there because they say that there's a lot of UFO phenomena, right? So I
Uh-huh.
go. There's a lot of sources to go. So I go talk with local people that are very elder there, that they live for long, and they call them like they're kind of like shamans. They're brujos. So I will ask one of the brujos, the major brujos that I could find. I'm like, who is the best brujo here? So people will hear that one, that one, that one. So I'll go and talk with him and be like, I'm like, look, this happened to me. What is that? And he
Yeah.
told me, he's like, oh, you saw the elders. Like these old creatures always been living here, and they live inside the mountains. That's what he told me. And I was like, so it's a creature that lives inside the mountains, and it can like go up in the sky and like live in the clouds if it wants to and hang out, whatever. To
Yeah.
me, it kind of made sense. I was like, oh, this could be like inbound creatures. Like people always think of like outer space creatures. What about like shit that lives inside this world? Because
Yeah.
these creatures are associated with volcanoes down there. Like he told me that they go through like the Popocatépetl entrance, that is one of the entrance to that world. So down there, they're very aware of this underworld, bro. And I start studying all this like ancient Mexican lore and shit. Dude,
Mhm.
there's something real about it because they knew about this way before we have even freaking reading records. Like they were doing codices about this. Codices like fucking drawings.
Now, the interesting thing about all of this is there's so many connections. Number one, back to the shape, the sphere and the like cube.
Yeah.
Ryan Graves, who is a pilot, who was on the SS Nimitz, I believe it was, that just that footage that just got released of the UFO that's kind of turning, and you can hear the Navy pilots talking. So this all over when you look it up, but that's exactly what they declared it to be too. They said that when they've seen hundreds of these things flying near the Navy ships and vessels on their training missions, they described it as they'd be like, "What is it?" And they're like, "I don't know. It was like a sphere with a cube inside of it." Now,
Yes.
a sphere is also something that I've heard many times in the UFO phenomenon because we always keep thinking too of like the UFO shape, but a
Yes.
sphere is something that is brought up way more than you can
Wait,
imagine. The
but
color,
there's the fact of shape shifting.
yeah, there is a shape shifting thing too that I've heard multiple platforms too, and that's interesting too because Lockheed Martin actually just came out recently, and they had created a trailer. They said it was like a kind of a trailer showing off what they could do and stuff, and they said right now that they also are working on a product that is the skin of an aircraft. So the skin material now has like sensors and batteries within inside of it, and these ships that they've created or aircraft that they have created can change shape. They fly autonomously, and they can go to random like points in like different things, and it can like read almost essentially read a pilot's like directional path where they were going to fly, and these things
Right.
can determine that. Now, this is strictly, that is just Lockheed Martin. And there's been a lot of information coming out too that Lockheed possibly has their fingers in the pot when it comes to like crash retrieval. Um, so,
Right. So this is the realm of technology, right? Like I'm not much of a materialistic anymore, so I'm not really like I'm not really that interested in like human shifts of technology, right? But to me, like all my trip went to the side of like the spiritual aspect of matter, because
yeah,
it felt to me that they were like beings that they were like so advanced that they could like manipulate matter in that sense of like of course it makes sense that they're like higher beings. This maybe is what people called angels, like these
yeah,
creatures that can interact with us if they want to, not with if we want with them. Like
yeah.
we don't have access to them, like they have only access to us, but they live here with us.
And
so so
that's another
so
thing that I've seen too is that like people can do what is that called, remote viewing kind of stuff, but the government has been working with kids on stuff like this, and I've heard countless stories of like kids who have said that they've worked with like the CIA and stuff, and they have taken things. They said substance, but they wouldn't go into describing what that was. And then they were able to communicate with this, whatever this is. So yeah, man, you brought up some really interesting points tonight on that story that have like
well,
connected a lot of dots here. Oh, and then the
yeah,
red and blue and the
yeah, I
time
wanted to.
slowing down. That's interesting because there's a thing called the red shift, and the red shift is where we can apparently have some sort of technology that can manipulate time and space. Now, when we can manipulate gravity, then time and space follow suit with that. So it's very interesting that you said it almost felt like time slowed down when you seen this.
Yes,
That was red and blue. And so that's also the color of the eye spectrum. When you look it up, we can see a tone of red and we can see all the colors all the way out through a blue. Now, what's beyond those colors are things like X-ray, and UV ray, ultraviolet light, that kind of stuff. And our eyes can't see them, but it is still there. And it gets really interesting to say that
there you
maybe
go.
this substance is helping you kind of maybe see just beyond that.
Definitely. Yeah, it's like changing your molecular structure to the point that
That,
you get into this frequency. So
that is,
that's what they, yeah, that's why they're so worried about this entity contact, because after that I forgot about all the pharmaceuticals and I was only interested in plants. So I went back and I started studying plants with different like shamans, and I got into like different experience, and they're very close to what happened. Like like I've never recreated that first one. Like it's never
right,
like I would say maybe I did with straight up smoking DMT. That thing is just like probably that, but plus more, because
right.
it's very bizarre. But but the sense of like really interacting with the matter, it's very difficult to convey in the mind of like you actually being in your kind of conscious mind and seeing straight up your matter transform and bend the laws of the natural laws, you know. So mathematics go up the window. You can go insane in those actions. Like to me, I don't know if it was good, like in the sense of my mind was barely like structuring, so it had it was able to bend enough to actually go into this realm of dwelling of so much possibilities, because it is crazy to me that it's so overlooked, because we're so obsessed with our like human endeavor, right? So we want the ships and we want to like get in a can and fucking fly to the moon. But I'm
Yep.
telling you, like humans, maybe I'm pretty sure that they probably were very savvy in the ways to like move through that dimension their whole being. Like they could actually um, use this type of technology of like getting in those frequencies and maybe traveling to other planets or worlds just with their body. You know, they don't need a ship. Like that's a modern thought, that the way we are trapped in this realm of 3D.
That's
But
very good
but
point.
yeah, but back in the time, like here in the ancient Americas, they had a totally different way of being, of looking, of understanding reality. And I think it's gonna come back because when I read all these documents, I'm seeing that the future is the past. It's just like these people don't understand how advanced this freaking dude. There, if you know where's Chacchamayan, Peru, like they have structures with stones of like 15 tons. It's impossible to do that, and they're
Yeah,
melted together.
yeah.
You understand? Like this is beyond
That's
a
You bring up
it is
another
crazy.
good point because another thing that I've noticed in the UFO phenomenon here is that we keep wrapping things back around to like Egypt. And Egypt, obviously, when we look at that, we have the Great Pyramids of Giza.
Yes,
And that is, as far as we know, we have no idea how that was
Mm,
built. We can suggest
no
things,
idea.
people working on them till the day that they died, and we built them apparently, hypothetically, for kings. But yet, in some of them in the king's chamber, we did not ever have bodies unless they were stolen out of there. Which, I mean, there's a few of them, but it's very interesting. Again, like how are they built? And maybe we are coming to that point in time where we're going to
Yeah,
be enlightened and learn about some of the things of the past and the technology that we maybe did once have or
yeah. Yeah, well,
controlling.
if yeah, if you are ever interested in that theme, like to study the that like the main pyramid of Egypt, it looks to me that they were probably more like power plants or something.
Mhm.
It, it, if you want to study the American version of that pyramid, you have to look into Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan, Mexico, it's one of the most strange structures. Like it's not very clear who built it. Like we have theories, right? But we have to understand that it's very very antique because by the time like you deal with the Aztecs, they don't even know. They just
Yeah.
call it like the city of gods. It's called Teotihuacan because they named it the Aztecs like that, but it's not like that was not the original name. And it holds a lot of like similarities with the pyramids of Egypt because it's like built over like some chamber. In this case, I think it has like a cave or a tunnel, and inside that place they have like mercury concentration. Like they put some elements, very strange materials, and there's a lot of theories that they were doing some type of electricity because they have some other element that they brought from fucking far. I think they brought it from Brazil, and then they had it all over the pyramid, and that shit is only thing that they use now for like space programs. So it is a very specific type of like mineral. So
Yeah.
all this is making these theories to come more in that side of like they were more advanced than we give them credit to. It's just that the type of technology is so alien to us
Hmm.
because they probably went a different route. And you got to understand another thing is that is America is probably way older than that they're telling us. So it
Hmm.
might be so antique that, I mean, you might be dealing with different freaking natural laws because they were doing countings of thousands of years. Like their cycles. Like how can they count cycles of 3,000 years if not
Yeah.
because they've been actually studying the world for beyond that, at least double. So it is very antique, and they just tell you like, no, it's only like 10,000 years. That's ridiculous.
Good point.
So yeah, we are discovering little by little that even here in the ancient Americas, we have this super super antique culture, and inside that culture, they talk about these creatures that we're talking about right now. So I have to take them into account as like they are probably right because I already saw one, and they are telling me exactly how they look like and what they're doing. It's the best reference I have. You see, and
Hmm.
it just comes from like like the little records that they could manage, and a lot of the people down there they do word to mouth, like the elders hold the stories of his elder, right? They pass along the legends and stuff like that. So you have to always be listening to these legends and taking note because something is hidden in there, the information of those times.
Yeah.
And I think we are ignoring a lot of this aspect because we are concentrating in this technology that we have modern, right? Of like communications with the phone and I don't know, like a lot of weaponry. We like rocket. We like cars, right? We were very obsessed by the vehicle. So I can understand why we turned the UFO phenomena into a vehicle thing. If you notice, like just people are just like, well, this vehicle. Like there was some dude that was telling me that there's a ship that is gonna take us all a certain day, and and I'm just trying to convey to him this same idea of like, what if they're not ships, man? What if we're dealing here is like we only have our ships, but what they have is like a cosmic gateway. Like they're in a dimension where they don't need ships, bro. They just go to that planet if they want to. They come back and they move in that realm. And we are not a part of it. It's just that we lost that technology
That's
because
pretty interesting right
yeah,
there.
the antique Americans
Oh,
were
like
working on a lot of that. If you notice the Mayans, they have measurements that are so insanely exact that they invented concepts like zero didn't even exist before, and
yeah,
and 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 they had this connection with cosmos that is by the like they will build a pyramid that had
yep.
an exact angle of a shadow in a certain moment of Venus moving into fucking I don't know some other astronomical shit that I can't understand,
I just
and
heard
and
about
that's it.
that. They have
Yeah, that
the pyramid inch is what it's called, and the pyramid has its own inch, which is so closely similar to how we would rate our inch, inches today. But yeah, that they had that technology and thought process back
yeah,
then
super
is
important for them.
it's unbelievable. No, that
because
fantastic one you've brought up
because
tonight.
they're always into the sky. Like they didn't have TikTok, right? Like they're looking into. It was very cool the way they will see the night sky because they will put water. They will
Hmm.
look at the pond and then look like the reflection of the pond and study like all these movements, right? They have this stones still they're here like in the archaeological sites and there's like a lot of reunions, a lot of astronomical people like from different tribes. They had gatherings, right? And they will be like sharing their knowledge of the skies, and so they were really really connected in all those like movements. So their calendar is very advanced,
Yeah,
uh,
agreed.
and
I've heard a
and
lot about
and
that as well
and
too.
that's why because they're taking into account a lot of like movement, right?
Yep.
So all these things it's not like they ignore it. Movements like an anomaly, like I will call an angel an anomaly, like it's some sort of like flying thing, an alive thing that has that capacity of flying
Yep.
and interact with you. And not only that, like this thing, you can find it in the deepness of the earth too, but in another version, because or in another expression of it, because there's a lot of legends that is connected with the underworld,
Yep.
like the caves down in Mexico. They even talk about like a whole type of being that lives there that are like small people,
Yeah.
and they come out of the ground everywhere you go. They talk about them, and it's like I've it's not like I've seen one, but I don't doubt that they're around. It's just like so strange, man.
No, I definitely that's wild. Everything that you've touched on tonight too, I've already like I've heard in different aspects. So I've been able to piece together some stories and some connections. I find that very interesting. Thank you so much for popping on tonight. I want to make sure we can get to a couple other people. I see that there's some people
Yeah.
waiting.
Oh yeah,
Man,
man.
really do appreciate you coming on and
No,
talking about
thank
those
thank
stories.
thank you for listening because I'm always like it feels so great that somebody can connect with this because it is very difficult to give to people because they just think that I'm inventing shit, bro. But if your mind has the knowledge of this teams, I
Hmm.
think what happens is what you were saying, like you just connect stuff and you're like, yeah, I know about this shit. So it
Yep.
is real, bro. Like whatever you're studying, you're going after, you're gonna find it.
Yep.
Just be ready for it. Just be ready because it is fucking real, man, and it's intense. So yeah, thank you again, and yeah, I'll keep up the show, man. I'll follow you.
Dude, thank you so much. I